Hi, this is Susanna Barton. I'm the founder of the Grand Plans online community and this podcast, and I'm so glad you're with us today. We have in the studio Heather Hausenblas, and she is going to tell us all sorts of interesting things about our health and aging, and some of the things that we need to know about as we get older. So glad you're here. Hi, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Grand Plans podcast. Today, I'm here with Heather Hausenblas PhD. She's an international award-winning health researcher and author of the very cool Wellness Discovery newsletter. It's a bi-weekly Substack newsletter that you should definitely be subscribing to. Heather also authored the book Invisible Illness, An Insider's Guide to Eliminating Overwhelm and Rediscovering the Path to Health and Happiness with an Autoimmune Disease. Today, we're going to talk about some of the more senior-related pieces she's published in her newsletter, including a simple way to protect against Alzheimer's and cognitive decline, how we can outwalk the Grim Reaper, and my favorite, 5 habits of super agers. So we have a lot to cover today. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so glad you're here. Well, I love what you write in your newsletter. It's really good stuff, and it, of course, appeals to all ages. Any adult would be interested. But so I'm looking at it with the eye of, how can this, how can we talk about some senior issues? And I was delighted to see that there's many of them on your site. So maybe we can start about Alzheimer's. That was a very interesting piece that you wrote, and how is it omega-3 fatty acids? I don't even know what they are, but how that can help with cognitive decline.
Yeah, it is omega-3 fatty acids. And it was an article based on some science taking a look at Alzheimer's and cognitive decline, which happens to all of us as we get older. Unfortunately, not only does our physical ability slow down, but so does our cognitive ability. And it's, things like, you're searching for words, or you walk into the kitchen and you say, why did I come in here?
Oh, I do that all the time.
Me too. And sometimes it's frustrating, but it's a natural part of aging. But there are things that we can do. And what the science is showing is actually quite fascinating, is that we do have control over our cognitive decline and kind of these, losses in memory. And it really comes down to what we're doing or not doing. And a large part of that is diet. And in particular, some fascinating research has shown that omega-3 supplementation actually can help with slowing down the cognitive decline. And that can be as simple as taking a really good omega-3 supplement or eating foods that are high in omega-3s. And the one that comes to me instantly is salmon. Okay. If you have your choice of what type of salmon, I always encourage people to get wild salmon, because it will be a little bit better for them. But kind of the point in what the science is showing is that we actually do have some control over our cognitive decline, and our diet plays a key role.
Okay, so what you're putting in your body now can affect your cognitive situation later on.
Exactly. So what we're eating now when we're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 is going to affect us long term. And if you're eating a diet right now and you're in your 50s that's not so healthy, that's okay. If you switch now or try to make more of an effort to eat healthier, which is oftentimes, plant-based foods, healthy types of fats and meats. If you enjoy that, start now and try to do it as much as possible in your diet. Are you going to 100% of the time eat healthy and follow it? No, but try to do it as much as possible.
Yeah, well, it's a lot to think about, but it's, no one wants to have that cognitive decline. I know it does trickle in, but especially with Alzheimer's, that's a scary thought for a lot of us. And I know you have had some experience in your family with your parents. Is that right? was it with Alzheimer's? Or?
Yes, with both, with both of both of my parents, they're in their 80s and they both have Alzheimer's, and it's been very difficult to watch people that you love and see them begin to, forget and not remember. We have 3 boys, and my dad does not remember them. So for me, I try to be as proactive as possible and say, okay, what can I do now to stop this process? Because obviously there is a genetic component to it, but what the research is saying is that our lifestyle habits are playing an even stronger role. And what I mean by that is what you're eating, how much you're moving during the day, and also how well you're sleeping at night. Those are kind of the foundations associated with our cognitive health.
Yeah, sleep. Gosh, I love me some sleep, but sometimes it's hard to make it happen. Oh, it's all this good noise going down. I was thinking we were going to have lawnmowers, but it looks like planes are going to be the issue, and dogs. But
it's good.
Yeah.
It adds to the background noise. And yes, you mentioned sleep, and unfortunately, people tend to give that up. And what I mean by that is if they have too much to do or they're running behind schedule, they will give up sleep. Meaning they will sleep a little bit less than they need to, and that is not good for our health. It is really the foundation of our health. And I tell people, if you're waking up with an alarm, that means you haven't got enough sleep.
Yeah.
And pretty much guaranteed that day when you wake up with your alarm, you're not going to be as active because you're just not going to have as much energy. You're probably going to be in a worse mood as well, and you're just not going to be as productive. So if you can really put, sleep at the top of the list and try to get the right amount of sleep that you need. And everybody needs a little bit. It's different. Some people need 7 hours, some people need 8 hours, but try to be consistent in when you go to bed at night and when you wake up in the morning.
And I think and I read that somewhere, if you're waking up with an alarm that you're not getting enough sleep. But it's, I'm now retired and not having to be, at a certain place at a certain time, which was early when I was working at Bowles. But an alarm clock was what I lived by, and I was always being woken up by that lovely ring from my phone. So is that how does a normal person who's got a job, a 9-to-5 job, to actually sleep without an alarm?
It's tough. Well, I was just lecturing actually yesterday to my students on sleep and asked them how many people, woke up with an alarm in the morning, and 80 to 90% of the students raise their hand, and it is pretty typical. And what I tell people is, you oftentimes we'll try to fit in like exercise, let's say, into the day, and you plan it into your day. I tell people, you need to plan your exercise as well, or your sleep as well. So what's really important for people is to go to bed at about the same time every night and wake up at about the same time every morning. And I said, and that even includes weekends, which is tough for people. But we do have a circadian rhythm that resets every day. And if you have to choose one, the most important thing you can do is wake up at the same time every day, because that resets your clock, even if you've gone to bed late the night before, because it'll reset. And really make that a habit. And I tell people, take a look at your environment before you go to bed, about 30 minutes before, put your screens away, maybe read, make sure you're sleeping in a dark, cool environment, and try to set yourself up for success when you're sleeping, because it really is an important habit of ours.
Yes. And sometimes if you have a spouse who has a different idea about how cold or hot it should be, that is tricky, but negotiable.
Negotiable, so, that's right. And they do have now, I was reading on mattresses that have, dual cooling components to it. So there are things that you can do. And some people say, well, my spouse likes to stay up late and has the light on in the bedroom. I said, well, wear an eye mask. Actually, research has shown that the simple fact of putting on like a $10 eye mask, which basically just blocks out all the light, will actually promote better sleep. Yeah. And I'm somebody who will actually use an eye mask because I need the room completely dark, and even just a little bit of light, even if it's coming from your cell phone or from your alarm clock, that can trick your brain into thinking that it's daytime. And that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that your room is really dark when you're sleeping.
Yep. So boiling it down, salmon and sleep. Very good for barring cognitive decline.
Yes.
So Let's move on to another article that I was so excited to read, and it was titled How We Can Outwalk the Grim Reaper. I'm a walker now. I used to be a runner. Every morning I would set my alarm early in the wee hours of the morning to go run. And now I walk, and I love it much more because I can do it a little later in the morning, and it doesn't feel as intense on my body, which I like. But let's talk about walking. Is it a good thing? Can we outwalk the Grim Reaper?
Yes, we can. It's an excellent point. And walking is honestly one of the best things that we can do for our health. It doesn't require a gym membership. It doesn't require expensive clothes. You just really need to put on some comfortable shoes and out you go. Right. And people think, oh, okay, well, I need to go and walk for an hour every day. And honestly, even just a couple minutes is going to have some health benefits. Okay. And if you do it with somebody else, it's even better. That social connection. Yes. Is incredible for overall health. So what I encourage people to do is it doesn't necessarily matter how fast you're going, but you want to get out there and you want to be walking. And yes, you can actually outwalk the Grim Reaper. This fascinating study actually took a look at walking pace of individuals and then followed them over time to see who ended up passing away. And they found that people that were walking at about a moderate intensity, which that means basically you're getting your heart rate up a little bit, but you can still talk to the person beside you and it's not uncomfortable. So a little bit faster than, let's say, strolling around at the mall will lead to increased longevity. So it's a simple activity for people to do, and it's one of the best things that we can do for our overall health. And I encourage people, if you can't even get out there for, a couple minutes a day, that will have some health benefits.
Yeah, good. Well, I embarrass myself most mornings walking around our neighborhood. Sometimes I walk with Lindsay Riggs. We used to run together, and now we walk a little bit. But I like to throw some arm movements in there, like punching and doing some other things. So I have my own unique way of walking that I'm hoping will really beat the Grim Reaper and keep him away.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. We forget the importance of, yes, walking is fantastic, but also we need to do what's called a little bit of resistance training as well. And that could be as simple as, yes, the punches that you're out there doing when you're walking, or sit-ups, push-ups, some lunges, or a little bit of weights. And honestly, we should be doing that a couple times a week for our health as well.
Yeah, good. Well, I love the idea of walking. I just think it's great. I much more enjoy the walking than the running. Although I miss getting up super early. Being out and about super early. I don't miss getting up early, but I do like being out there when the sun comes up. All right. So moving on to the final point of our conversation, which I think will be one of the most robust topics that we discussed today, and that's the 5 habits of superagers. What is a superager, and what do they have going on?
So superagers are a group of individuals in their 80s and beyond that are honestly extremely healthy and biologically are, look like they're decades younger. So they're behaving like they're in their, 50s and 60s. And we call these individuals superagers, and we're interested in what makes somebody a superager, because as we become more of an age population, we want to understand this. And it's really quite fascinating. What the research shows is there's these 5 general characteristics that are associated with superagers. And some of these may surprise some of the listeners, some may not. Obviously, what comes out is a healthy diet, eating, your a lot of your fruits and vegetables. Exercise also comes up, so being physically active and going out for your walks. And also social connections. And this sometimes surprises people, but if I can state, if there's one thing that is probably one of the most important things for our health, it is being socially connected.
Yes.
And research has shown that people who are socially will state that they feel lonely or don't have close family or friends that they can rely on. From a health standpoint, it's about the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day, to kind of put it in perspective what it does. And there's been fascinating studies showing that when you follow people all the time, what predicts whether somebody will live a long and happy life, the number one thing that comes out is their social connections, having those close family and friends that they can rely on. So I encourage people to spend time fostering them and spending time with people. Does this mean that you need to spend all your waking hours with other people? No, but it's important to have high quality social relationships, and to foster those is very, very important for our health. Another one that came out in the study about what makes somebody a super ager is related to our personality. Now, this might surprise people, but people who are extroverted and also have a positive outlook on life are also characteristics of super agers. So extroverts are people like, that tend to be more outgoing. They tend to be a little bit more talkative, and they tend to be people who display a lot of energy. So it's not that you need to be the life of the party or the one, necessarily talking all the time, but you have that outlook of positivity and energy and getting involved. So the point to this is our outlook in life, and being optimistic is really important for overall health. So I encourage people to take a look at the thoughts that you have during the day. Maybe try to look on the bright side of things and not get too worked up over stuff, and try to have that positive outlook, because it really does influence how long you live and how happy you're going to live.
Yeah, that's amazing. And getting back to the community part of it, I would think, someone who's extroverted and positive is going to have an easier time than being part of a community situation, and not unlike a church. You might find your community in church or at a restaurant you frequent all the time. I mean, it's community can come from lots of places. It doesn't necessarily have to be your friends or your family. It could be a place that you're a part of all the time.
Exactly. Maybe you belong to a group. Maybe you go to like a coffee shop, every day, and you know the barista. And it's interesting that, yes, our close connections are really, really important, but also our casual ones play an important role. And that is like could be the coffee shop barista who's handing you your coffee. If you just smile at the person and say hello or have some type of casual conversation with them, that will actually change your day and put you in a better mood. Or if you, for example, you're out walking the dog and you pass a stranger, the simple fact of looking them in the eye and saying hello will have a positive effect on your overall health. So yes, our close connections are really important, but also our casual ones play a key role as well.
And I would think that those casual relationships that are every day, weekly, whatever, that someone is noticing you and noticing when they don't see you. So if they don't see you for a few days, there may be concern, and someone may be able to look in on you or help you, or just know that, maybe something's not quite right, which can be a problem for older adults who are living by themselves.
Agreed. And it's important to have, those connections and people who know your routine and are checking in on you is so vital for our health.
Yeah. Let's see. What were the other? The healthy diet, and you're physically active. Yeah, you hit them all 5. Well, I mean, is there hope for an introvert in this as a super ager? Can you go into your senior stroll thinking, I'm not really a people person, or I don't like to put myself out there?
It's a good point. So if you are an introvert, and not everybody is an extrovert and not everybody's an introvert. Most of us fall somewhere along the continuum. But the point is to kind of make that effort to get yourself out there. And introverts tend to be a little quieter and keep more to themselves, but it's not necessarily that they don't like to be in group settings. So if you're more of an introvert, don't feel that you're doomed and don't have a chance of becoming a super ager, because it's not just one thing. It's those 5 things that I mentioned kind of coupled all together, but we can always make efforts and try to get yourself, out there and do things and be as active as possible.
Is there a trend of super agers now? I know a lot of people are living longer just because the medical resources are better. Our living arrangements are better. We are more aware of our health and what we're putting in our bodies. And does that subsequently create pressure or a problem for society when, if more people are living to 90 and 100, and that's more the norm versus, I think, probably in our parents' generation or our grandparents for sure, 70 was, a rough number. But I don't know, I just wonder if the superager trend is more of a social and cultural shift.
It is a shift. And what we see now here in the United States, the average person is living to about 80 years, and what's happening is, people who are living longer is becoming a fast-growing demographic. But I think what's important is not only our lifespan, which is how long we live, but also our health span.
You're right.
And they don't match up, unfortunately. So what I mean by that is the average person, let's say, is living to around 80 years of age, but their health span tends to be around 65. So that's kind of where their health begins to deteriorate significantly. So the ideal situation is that we want our lifespan to match our health span. Mm-hmm. And what we see with these superagers is that's really what's happening with them. So if we can take a look at kind of their 5 key characteristics of superagers, and we're aware of that, then in our own life, then we can try to make a conscious effort to do those types of things, knowing hopefully that it's going to increase our health span.
Yeah, right. And there's just, it opens up the spectrum of life when you're thinking, I'm going to be living into my 80s and 90s even, and, and to be aware of your health and how you're living certainly makes an impact, I would think. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and your expert guidance on all of these issues. And I hope you'll come back one of these days and tell us some more. And if anyone is looking for something very interesting to read twice a week, please sign up for Heather's newsletter. It is awesome, and I just love getting it. It's called Wellness Discovery. And if you go on the Google machine and type in Wellness Discovery and Heather Hausenblas and Substack, you will come across the link. So anyway, thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. This was really fun. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being with us today on episode 7 of season 2 of Grand Plans. You can find this episode and all of the others we've recorded on mygrandplans.com, also on our YouTube channel, and through Buzzsprout, which is a direct link for some of these podcasts. So thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time.